All right, so let's get started. So I'm just gonna, well, my name's Ikenna. I'm the host of the Crypto Beach. But as you guys know, we interview some of the most interesting folks in crypto, NFT spaces included. So today we've got a wonderful guest. She's going to go through kind of her experience with Bitcoin or her first experience minting NFTs. And I won't stand in the way any longer. Go ahead.
Okay, you may have to remind me again, just the structure, because I have short-term memory, I swear to God. But
No, so this is perfect because for everyone watching, this is a 15-minute segment. The first 5 minutes, we go through the first time she's bought Bitcoin, the first time she minted an NFT. She's going to go through that in dazzling color and share all the different ups and downs of that process. The second part of the discussion, 5 minutes, just giving us tips and tricks about how to navigate the space. Top 3 would be best. And then the last 5 minutes, finally, to discuss trends, where she sees things going, resources people should be looking at as they venture into the space.
awesome. Well, there's quite a bit of a journey here, so I'll try and keep it 5 minutes per section. It's always so hard to share every detail, but I'll do the best I can. So how I was introduced to NFTs was actually one of my really good friends. I am active on all social media platforms, including Instagram. That's primarily where I've been sharing my art up to this point, until my girlfriend, who also does a very similar work as me, said, hey, we should get into NFTs. I know someone who's been doing it for quite some time. He said, that's where to be. That's where we should getting our art to be. Go on Twitter. And I was very skeptical about it. I really was. I knew nothing about crypto. I knew nothing about NFTs. I just thought it was such a just so much to absorb. So I took a step back from creating art for a couple of weeks to just dive deep. And, thankfully I had a group of people who were also wanting to get into the crypto space. That certainly helped quite a bit too. But most of them are not in Canada. Attaining crypto is different depending on where you are in the world. So I had to go to YouTube. I started with YouTube. I heard about MetaMask, where you can keep all of your tokens, your Ethereum, that is the first cryptocurrency and the only one. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's 2. Ethereum and Tezos are the only 2 cryptocurrencies that I've currently invested in. But Ethereum is my main one because the majority of the NFT platforms are on the Ethereum blockchain. So I had to figure out a way to, first of all, get some funds from my bank account to my MetaMask so that I can start listing my pieces. So found out I use something called BitBuy. That's where I transfer my Canadian funds to BitBuy to purchase whatever token I want. So I purchased some Ethereum, and that was a couple $100 at first. But that's what it takes. You got to invest a little bit in there, and then eventually you'll get it back eventually. And then realize that gas fees can be quite high, and they change quite a bit depending on the transactions that are happening in a day. So that's something I had to learn really fast, was that sometimes you have to be patient and just wait for the gas fees to be a little bit, a little bit lower so that you can not spend all your money at that point. So I got MetaMask. It's just a Chrome browser extension that is free. So it's very easy to set up. There's lots of YouTube tutorials for that. And I didn't really have a step-by-step process of how I had to kind of just play around with it. I do work in IT for my full-time job. So that really does help a little bit to troubleshoot and figure out the tweaks. But once I had some Ethereum in my MetaMask, it was a little easier for me at that point in time to get on some platforms like OpenSea, where you don't need an invitation. And then I got an invite to Foundation. Very easy from that point, very user-friendly to connect your wallet to the platform. So then from there, that's when I started first listing my minting and listing. Now every platform is different. And I can say that OpenSea does provide a lot of great links and resources for those who are new or wanting to list their first NFT. I think it's the best platform to start with if you're getting into NFTs. I think it's also more financially friendly. For the first time, you have to pay for the minting and the listing. And then after that, you don't have to pay gas fees anymore. So I think it's a lot more financially suited for those who may not have all the Ethereum in the world to keep paying for gas fees every time you want to list something new. Until you start making some sales, that might be, something that's a little bit easier. But that's essentially how I got into that. I was told to go on Twitter, and I didn't want another social media account, but that's where crypto is. If you want to get into NFTs, Twitter is 1,000% a must. It is non-negotiable. But I mean, there are other apps you can, but that is the number one place to be for NFTs to really get started. I'll get into the tips and tricks next, but those are definitely the starting points of how I got to where I am.
Nice. So that's really awesome. When you picked how did you pick the first piece that you minted? Yeah.
So I changed up my strategy now compared to when I first started, but I put so much pressure on myself for my first one, because they kind of say that like your first piece or your genesis means first piece for those who don't know the terminology. So I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what do you mean genesis? It's your first piece. So
I'm learning genesis for the first time now. So
see? There, you learned something new today. So I put so much pressure on myself because they say that, it's a make or break situation. Like you're entering the scene, that's your first one. You gotta like set a good impression. So I was like, okay. So I had to really think about my concept and everything. And so it ended up being a piece that actually represents me. So a lot of my pieces actually represent, how I'm feeling in that moment, like many artists, right? But it was a piece that depicted my fear of entering the space. Very vulnerable place of sharing that with the world, but it was exactly how I felt. And I know I'm not the only one who was feeling that way. So it depicted, it was a girl in a bubble. She was out in nature, being from up north in Canada, like nature is a big part of my life. So I really wanted to be something that was in my comfort zone, but also out of my comfort zone. I was kind of playing with that concept a little bit of, the mix of both worlds. But ready for something new. She had a daisy in her hand, and then outside of the bubble there were already daisies out on the grass. So it kind of depicted that she already went out and grabbed herself a daisy, and then she went back into her little bubble again to kind of be like, okay, I'm safe again, but I did grab something from another environment. And it's a way of like tiptoeing into this new world gradually. And that's kind of how I got into NFTs. Was a very gradual process, and I wanted to take my time with it. So yeah, that's how my first piece came about, was just to be true to myself. Yeah.
Super thoughtful. That's
yeah.
cool. All right. Well, yeah, no. And now how many pieces do you have now? I mean,
ooh, I'll have to double check that because I'm on multiple platforms now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More than a dozen though, right?
Yeah, there's enough. Like I've sold at least 14, 15 pieces.
Wow.
Yeah, across different platforms. And so that's something to keep in mind too, for those who are brand new to the scene. If you are multidisciplinary like myself and you want to be able to share different mediums, something to keep in mind is that, from a marketing and brand standpoint, you have to be cohesive with where you mint your pieces. So if you are a photographer, but you're also a painter, utilize different platforms to share one medium per platform as a strategy. So my 2D collage works are kind of all over the place, but I also do digital illustration. So I kept that to be on OpenSea. And now my 3D/2D collage work are on Maker's Place and Known Origin. So there's a place for each kind of style that I love to do, and it's cohesive, and collectors can see that, people can see that, so they kind of know like, oh, okay, if I want to see your 2D collage work specifically, I got to go to Foundation, for example. So yeah, so I don't think I have too many collections. I don't really have collections much either. It's just because of the nature of my lifestyle. I don't have as much time because I'm not a full-time artist. I'd like to create a collection one day, because definitely collections are becoming much bigger. That's definitely answering part of the third question. Collections are becoming more and more popular. So I'd like to explore that in the new year at some point.
Yeah. So really now you're like, you've got a whole bouquet of daisies in the bubble, basically. But
pretty much. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So as far as tips and tricks, kind of like things to look out for what would you kind of advise to folks who are getting into either NFTs, or it sounds like your experience is more in that of NFTs. So
yeah. So again, I mean, I started my Twitter account in March and we're now in November. I'm at over 11K followers, which is, first of all, really crazy. But just knowing that I reached that many people who want to follow my journey, who want to resonate with my work, like that's a really cool feeling. But I put a lot of work into making that happen. So Twitter is all about community. So being in the NFT space, community to me is the main focus here. For those who want a quick cash grab, it's not exactly the right place for that. You might get lucky once or whatever. But if you have to have the mindset of being there for the long haul, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to put the time and investment into engaging with the community. So Instagram, for example, is a much different algorithm. It's totally different compared to Twitter. My experience on Twitter is much more friendly, it's more loving, more supportive. I feel like I have a family on Twitter now because I spent again, at least 1 to 2, this is just my personal preference, of course, but I spent a good 1 to 2 hours a day just on engaging with the community. So I was told in the beginning, don't put your piece up yet, don't mint anything yet, just take the time to engage with the current community that's out there. Find artists that you really like. If you find something you really like and you're like, wow, this resonates with me so much, you're going to make those connections. And that's where you start finding those genuine, like that genuine following of people that you want to support all the time, and they're going to support you in return, right? So that was huge. And that's when I started sharing more of my work. It's not just even about sharing your work. It's not even just about promoting your work. People actually want to get to know who you are as a human. And I think that's really, really cool. Just to give an example, I started a thread yesterday. Threads are really big on Twitter just to get people involved, like participating. Something that we don't see all the time is people's faces, right? We're on social media. We don't always know who's behind the camera or who's behind the art. So I started a thread of, hey, share a selfie and one of your favorite pieces. And it blew up. It just absolutely blew up because people were so happy to see people's faces that they've been talking to for months, right? It's just that human connection that we're all like craving. So really getting to know like the community is, to me, one of the most important focuses in the NFT community. Don't worry about too much about promoting your work. Like, of course, promote it. I think there's a time and place for that, but definitely take more time to engage with the community first before getting into the art stuff. Yeah.
That's really powerful. Great advice. Great advice. Yeah. It's always nice to hear, kind of these stories of how people connect using digital mediums. So the fact that you said something that, you basically just asked folks to share a photo, understanding that we have this human craving to connect is really thoughtful. I think that's pretty cool.
And let's be honest, I was like, I don't even know what half these people look like. I would like to know the face to the name. You know what I mean? I've been talking to them for months, but I had no idea what they look like. And it was just so nice. And the kindness that was being spread on that thread was so wholesome, just to see like, wow, you look amazing. Or like, wow, like it was such a beautiful, like, I was just like, just because I wanted to see people's faces, it was just a really cool thing. So you can tell that the community on Twitter or on other platforms is very different. And I say that to everyone. If you want to be a part of something, you want to be like feeling like a part of a community, that's where it is. Like, it's, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well said. Well said. And then, in terms of kind of where you see things going, can you sort of just kind of lend some insight on that?
So I think right now there's a whole bunch of things happening. So Ethereum is still going up. And again, like I mentioned before, the majority of the NFT platforms are on the Ethereum blockchain, and the majority of the sales are going to. Tezos also has their own, has blockchain as well, where they have a few different platforms, but it's not at the same par, I guess, as Ethereum. So Ethereum, because they're continuously going up, that means also gas fees are also going up. and it's not exactly the most sustainable. Even with making sales, it's like, can I justify spending $150 just to mint, and then I have to list it after? Like, it costs a good chunk of money sometimes, and it's like, even I can't justify that. And I know a lot of artists that's a huge barrier for artists to get their work up there, right? Because they can't afford it. And so I hope with Ethereum 2.0, whenever the hell that happens, I hope that gas fees will be much more affordable for everyone. Otherwise, I think there will be other blockchains like Solana, even Tezos might get better. Who knows? Because we can't keep up with all of these expensive gas fees, right? So something's going to have to change at some point in time. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot of artists in that sector.
Thanks for sharing that. That's there's got to be some innovation that reduces the cost. It sounds like it's prohibitive to folks being able to list their properties and actually connect with their fans and collectors.
Like, there's many artists that they just need that gas fee just to get at least one piece up, and then their life can be that's when things can begin, right? So I work for a startup that's in Toronto that provides support programs. So for those who are new to the scene, this is probably something that would be very helpful. This is a group of people where we provide support programs such as gas fee sponsorships, where we sponsor your next gas fee for your next piece. That's an example. We have a community curation program where we actually bid one piece per week. So you may have the opportunity for that too. So that's just only two, but I'm just saying that there are startups, like the one I do work for, that provide this to artists in the scene. And it's a great way to help discover more artists too. So I can't speak upon, there's probably plenty more that I may not be aware of, but I'm actively involved with them. They actually collected one of my pieces back in May. And then I've been actively involved in their community. Then they asked me to be onboarded on their team. So I run their spaces once a week. So that's something also too, for a tip is, it's nice once in a while when you're texting on your phone, but you want to have that, you want to hear people's voices. You want to connect. So Twitter has what's called spaces. I host a space bi-weekly for this startup so that we can connect with the community. Get to talk about yourself, talk about your wins. If you have any questions about anything, being actively involved in spaces is also so helpful when you're just starting out in the space. Can be a little intimidating at first, but I can promise it will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, and you get connected with people too. So I am a big fan of spaces. In terms of kind of your goals, with your art, if you could wave a magic wand to create the kind of the perfect experience as an artist, what does that look like for you? And then two, would you want to be a full-time artist, essentially sustain completely off of the sort of the sales and royalties through your NFT projects?
So yeah, I'll definitely answer that second one. It would be a dream to be a full-time artist. I took a 10-year hiatus away from doing art because I didn't feel that I was good enough. I didn't feel that it would be attainable to be a full-time artist. And I do believe NFTs has changed the game for artists. I think it can be possible. It's just time will tell. It hasn't even been a year, and it's completely changed my life. It's brought me more opportunities, podcasts, interviews, to collaborations. That's something also the space has brought as well, is the opportunities for collaborations that were never possible before. Wow. So in terms of the first question, I'm hoping, from an overall standpoint, I'm not talking about just myself, but I'm hoping that things will change in terms of there will be more opportunities to. So actually, one thing I do want to mention is that, right now we're so focused on Ethereum, right? We're so heavily, most of the platforms are heavily focused on Ethereum, but I don't want to feel constricted to just one blockchain. I'm hoping that there are opportunities to kind of branch ourselves into other blockchains where we don't have to be on Ethereum to be successful. Because I do think there are, Solana it's coming. I know it's coming. I hope Tezos changes up a little bit as well, because it is more affordable. I mean, again, I just think that I'm hoping it's still premature right now. I think it's still very immature. The space still is growing as it goes. And I think the only way to really drive that change is to be open and vocal about it, but being in those spaces, and, providing that feedback to other platforms as well. I do know they do listen to artists because they always update their platforms. But again, I think that's something that a lot of people have mentioned. I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm hoping we can branch out to other blockchains that we're not so stuck in just one place. So to feel more free in that way, so that we have the freedom to do what we would like to do with our art. But definitely to answer the second one, I would love to be a full-time artist. But again, time will tell. I do have a great full-time job that supports me right now. I do work from home, so that definitely helps quite a bit. But to be able to just make art anywhere in the world and not having to be stuck maybe just in Canada, that would be pretty damn awesome.
Pretty awesome.
But, yeah.
All right, cool. Now, are there any, I know that you've been working on quite a few projects. Anything in particular you want to share with the audience today? Shout outs, channels, resources, anything at all? Feel free to self-promote here.
It's so funny because I am the worst when it comes to promoting myself. And people laugh because they know it's true. I spend more time supporting others and promoting other people's work. But so like I mentioned, I think I was talking to you earlier, I dropped 2 big ones in the last 2 weeks. Both are Genesis pieces, Unknown Origin and Maker's Place. Both of them were collaborations, and I'm very, very proud of my collab partners and myself. I've never worked with they're both 3D artists. And I've never done that before. I've never
How did you come to meet them?
They found me. So one of them was in the space as well. And we followed each other on Instagram, Twitter, and he asked me in the summertime, he's like, hey, would you be open to potentially collaborating? I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And then the second one, I wanted to bring my 2D collages to life. They're 4 of my best works I've ever made. And I thought, they're great, but I think they could be even better if they were just brought to life a little bit. So I connected with someone who is a part of the community that I work for. He's always been very kind to me, very supportive of the community, and he's crazy talented. Both of them are so talented. So I reached out to him and we made some magic.
Awesome.
So I thought, I know I've been doing mostly one-on-ones by myself. But I'm really big on collaborating. I love working in groups. I love working with people. So why not share my Genesis piece on these 2 amazing platforms with others, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. So those are the 2 biggest ones right now that are out. And I have another one coming in January. I can't give too much information for the nature of the project, but it is coming in mid-January. It'll be another one-of-one, but it's just myself this time. I think it's one of the best pieces I've ever made. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Okay, cool. And we'll make sure to pump it on our channel as well once that time comes. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you've got anything else to share, you can. If not, then I think this pretty much would wrap up the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, just for anybody who's listening out there, I was someone who really felt that I wasn't good enough to be an artist. And let me tell you that you're the one holding yourself back. I had to finally tell myself that, yeah, you know what? I can do this. I want to do this. And within 8 months, my art career has completely taken off because of the opportunities that NFTs has provided to give that discoverability to artists we're finally getting the compensation we deserve for all the hard work we put into our craft. So I can honestly, tell you that if you wanted to enter this space, you won't regret it. You really won't. You'll find a loving community. You'll feel a part of something. And on top of that, you get to share your passion with others who also love doing it as much as you do. So I highly recommend NFTs. I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, it's changed my life. I know it'll change all of yours too.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can bring you back on again, as things continue to mature on both sides, on yours and on ours. So, all righty.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. And I really hope that for everybody listening out there that this is really helpful. I'm always free for anybody to ask questions as well. I'm open on Twitter, Instagram. I'm happy to answer people's questions as well. So, yeah.
All righty. Well, have a good rest of your evening, and
I
look forward to seeing more from you. And I will be tweeting your work on Crypto Beats. So, keeping everybody in the know.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very sweet. And I'll be doing the same with yours. I'm already following you. So be happy to connect with you again in the future. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Have a good rest of your night. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.